She sold her ring to feed her son. The billionaire buyer gave her more than money. He gave her love. The bell above the pawn shop door made a sound like breaking glass. Martina Medina stood frozen just inside. Her 6-year-old son Mateo's hand gripped tight in hers, and wondered if her mother could see her from heaven. Except Mum wasn't in heaven yet. She was in a memory care facility across town, asking for people who'd been dead 20 years. "I can wait in the car, Mama," Mateo whispered. His backpack hung off one shoulder, stuffed with library books he'd read 3 times already, because new ones cost money they didn't have. "No, baby." Martina's voice came out stronger than she felt. "We stick together. My beautiful family. Welcome to Romance and Love Stories. Here, we don't just tell stories, we breathe life into the kind of love that finds you when you least expect it, the kind that changes everything, the kind that reminds you why the heart never gives up." If this is your first time here, go ahead and subscribe and turn on your notifications, because every story we share carries a message meant for someone. And if you've been with us before, thank you. Truly. Your support keeps this community growing. Settle in, stay with us till the very end, drop a comment so we know how you feel, and don't forget to like this video. Now let's dive deep. The shop smelled like dust and other people's desperation. A woman behind bulletproof glass barely looked up from her phone. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a greenish tint that made Martina's brown skin look grey in the mirror by the door. She pulled the ring from her pocket. White gold, small diamond, nothing spectacular, but it had been her grandmother's before it was hers. Diego had slipped it on her finger 7 years ago, back when she'd believed in promises. The ring felt heavy, heavier than its actual weight, heavy like the eviction notice folded in her purse, heavy like the medical bills from Mum's facility, heavy like the groceries she couldn't afford and the electricity bill that was 2 months overdue. "Next," the woman called without enthusiasm. Martina stepped forward. Mateo stayed close, his shoulder pressed against her hip. She could feel him trying to be brave. 6 years old, and already learning that brave meant pretending you weren't scared. "I need to sell this." She slid the ring under the glass partition. The woman picked it up with the interest of someone examining a used tissue, turned it over, squinted at it under a light that made the tiny diamonds scatter rainbows across the counter. 200. Martina's stomach dropped. "It's worth at least 800. Maybe 1,000. "Not to me," the woman pushed it back. 200 or nothing. $200. That would maybe cover groceries for a month if she was careful. If Mateo didn't grow out of his shoes again. If the car didn't need gas. If the world just stopped requiring money for 5 damn minutes. "Mama?" Mateo tugged her hand. His eyes were too big, too understanding. "Kids shouldn't have to understand this much." The bell chimed again. Martina didn't turn around. She was too busy trying not to cry in front of her son, trying to figure out how to make $200 stretch into survival. "I'll give you 8,000 for it." The voice came from behind her, deep, male, unexpected. Martina spun around. The man standing 3 feet away looked like he'd walked out of a magazine. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that was just messy enough to be intentional. He wore a navy sweater that probably cost more than her car and jeans that fit like they'd been made for him specifically. His eyes were striking light blue, almost grey, and they were fixed on the ring in her hand with an intensity that made her pulse stutter. "Excuse me?" She heard her own voice like it was coming from someone else. 8,000. He stepped closer, not threatening, just present. "For the ring. I'll buy it from you directly. Cash." The pawnshop woman perked up. "Hey, you can't." "I just did." He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on Martina. "I'm Gerald. Gerald Macmillan. And I'm not trying to scare you or con you. I just think that ring is worth more than $200, and you clearly need more than $200. Martina's hand closed around the ring. Every instinct screamed this was wrong. Strange men didn't offer desperate women $8,000 in pawn shops. This was how horror stories started. But Mateo's stomach had growled that morning. She'd given him her breakfast and told him she wasn't hungry. "Why?" The word came out sharp, defensive. Gerald's expression softened. "Because 5 years ago, I watched my wife die in a hospital bed, and the day before she passed, she made me promise something. She said if I ever had the chance to help someone, really help someone, I should do it. No questions, no hesitation, just help." His voice cracked on the word, wife. Just barely, Just enough that Martina knew he wasn't lying. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Me too." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wallet. Not a regular wallet, the kind made of leather so soft it looked like fabric. But she was right. She usually was. So, 8,000. That's what the ring is actually worth, maybe more. You sell it to me, you get a fair price. I get something beautiful to remind me that good things still exist in the world. Martina looked down at Matteo. Her son was staring at Gerald with the kind of hope that broke her heart. "You don't even know me," she said. "No." Gerald counted out bills. "Hundreds, lots of them. But I know what it looks like when someone is choosing between pride and survival. And I know your son is wearing shoes that are 2 sizes too small." Martina's eyes burned. She looked down. Matteo's toes were literally bursting through the canvas of his sneakers. She'd been telling herself they'd last another month. They wouldn't. "This is crazy," she breathed. "Probably." Gerald held out the money. $800 bills, more cash than she'd seen in 3 years. But crazy doesn't mean wrong. She should walk away. She should take her ring and leave and figure something else out. There had to be another way. There was always another way. Except there wasn't. Not this time. The eviction notice gave her 5 days. 5 days to come up with 2 months' rent plus late fees. $1,800 she didn't have and couldn't get. $8,000 would cover rent, would buy Matteo new shoes and winter clothes, would pay down Mum's medical bills, would let her breathe for the first time in months. "Okay." The word fell out of her mouth before she could stop it. "Okay. Yes. Thank you." She placed the ring in his palm. Their fingers brushed. His hand was warm. Gerald closed his fingers around the ring, then handed her the cash. She took it with shaking hands, unable to believe this was real, unable to process that a complete stranger had just saved her life in a pawn shop on a Tuesday afternoon. "Thank you," she said again. It felt wildly inadequate. "You already said that." He smiled. It changed his whole face, made him look younger, less like a businessman and more like a person. "I'm glad I was here." Matteo tugged her sleeve. "Mama, is that man magic?" Gerald laughed. Actually laughed. The sound filled the dusty shop like light. "Nobody. Just lucky. I got to do something good today. We should go." Martina shoved the money in her purse before reality could catch up and take it back. "Thank you. Really. I don't know what else to say." "You don't have to say anything." Gerald stepped back, giving her space. "Take care of yourself, both of you." She nodded, grabbed Matteo's hand, turned toward the door. "Wait." She stopped, turned back. Gerald was holding out a business card. Simple, expensive looking, just his name and a phone number. "In case you ever need anything," he said quietly. "Or if you just want to talk. No strings, no expectations. Just if you need something." Martina took the card. Their fingers brushed again. That same warmth. "I won't call," she said honestly. "I know." He smiled again, sad this time. "But take it anyway." She slipped the card in her pocket, walked out of the pawn shop with her son and $8,000, and the strangest feeling that something enormous had just shifted in her universe. Outside, the May afternoon was warm. The Blue Ridge Mountains rose in the distance, hazy and blue against the sky. Charlottesville spread out around them, all historic brick and rolling hills, and the University of Virginia's white columns gleaming in the sun. "Mama?" Matteo looked up at her. "Can we get pizza?" Martina started to say no, then stopped, looked at her purse where $8,000 sat like a miracle. "Yeah, baby," she whispered. "We can get pizza." She didn't cry until they got to the car, and even then, she made sure Matteo didn't see. 3 days later, Gerald Macmillan stood in his daughter's room, holding a ring that wasn't his dead wife's, and wondering what the hell he'd been thinking. "Daddy?" Penelope looked up from her coloring book, 7 years old with her mother's green eyes and his dark hair. "Why are you staring at nothing again?" "I'm not staring at nothing." He slipped the ring into his pocket. "I'm thinking." "About the lady?" Gerald's head snapped toward his daughter. "What lady?" "The one you keep thinking about." Penelope went back to coloring, completely unconcerned. "You get the same face Grandpa gets when he thinks about Grandma." "I do not have a face." "You totally have a face." She switched to a purple crayon. "Is she pretty?" Gerald sat on the edge of the bed. Outside the window, his estate spread out across 15 acres of Virginia countryside. The house was too big, always had been. Elizabeth had wanted something cozy. He'd bought her a mansion because he could, because his tech company had made him a billionaire before he turned 35, and he'd thought money could buy happiness. It couldn't. Money couldn't buy anything that mattered. I don't know if she's pretty, he lied. She was beautiful. Completely, devastatingly beautiful. Warm brown skin and dark eyes that held too much sadness. Natural hair pulled back in a bun that was coming loose. She'd been wearing scrubs with cartoon characters on them. Her hands had shaken when she took the money. You should call her, Penelope announced. I don't have her number. Then how's she supposed to call you? She's not. Penelope looked at him with the disappointed expression only a 7-year-old could master. That's dumb, Daddy. Thanks, sweetheart. You gave her your number, right? Gerald pulled out the ring, turned it over in his palm. The diamond caught the light, such a small stone, but it had meant everything to the woman who sold it. Martina. Her name had been on the pawnshop paperwork he'd glimpsed before the employee could hide it. Martina J. Medina. He'd looked her up. Of course he'd looked her up. He had resources most people didn't have. Within an hour, he'd known everything. Single mother. Worked as a nursing assistant until recently when she'd lost her job. Ex-husband skipped town 3 years ago and stopped paying child support. Mother in memory care. Eviction notice filed 10 days ago. He'd known exactly how desperate she was when he offered her $8,000, and he'd done it anyway, because Elizabeth's voice was still in his head, whispering that money didn't mean anything if you didn't use it to help people. I think she needed help, he said quietly. Penelope abandoned her coloring, climbed onto the bed next to him, put her small hand on his arm. Then why do you look sad? Because I don't know if I helped or if I just made things weird. Did you ask for anything back? No. Then you helped. Simple. Easy. The way kids saw the world before life complicated everything. Gerald's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his heart stopped. Unknown number. Virginia area code. The text was short. This is Martina, from the pawn shop. I wanted to say thank you again. You saved my life. I hope that doesn't sound dramatic. It's just true. He stared at the message for a solid 30 seconds. Is it her? Penelope tried to see the screen. Maybe. What'd she say? Thank you. Are you gonna answer? Gerald's thumb hovered over the keyboard. He should keep it professional, polite, distant. He'd given her money. She'd said thanks. Everyone could move on with their lives. Instead, he typed, "How's your son? Did he get new shoes?" The response came fast. He did. And winter clothes. And I paid rent. And my mother's medical bills. I don't know how to ever repay you. You don't have to repay me. That's not how help works. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Can I at least buy you coffee? I know this is weird. I just feel like I owe you more than a text message. Gerald looked at Penelope. She was grinning like she'd won the lottery. Don't say it, he warned. I told you she'd call. She texted. That's different. Is it, though? No, it absolutely wasn't. He typed back, coffee sounds good. There's a place near the university called Grit. Thursday at 10? I'll be there. Thank you. Again. I know I keep saying that. You can stop any time. Not yet. Gerald put the phone down, tried to ignore the way his pulse was racing. This wasn't a date. This was a woman being polite because a stranger had given her money. Nothing more. Daddy's smiling, Penelope sang. Daddy's going to take away your dessert privileges. No, you won't. She hugged him tight. You're too happy. He was. That was the terrifying part. He hadn't been happy, really, genuinely happy since Elizabeth died. 5 years of just existing, going through motions, building his company bigger and bigger because work didn't require feelings. And now a woman he didn't know had texted him about coffee, and his heart was doing things it hadn't done in half a decade. This is a bad idea, he muttered. Penelope patted his cheek. Mama always said the best things are a little bit scary. She had. Elizabeth had been fearless. She'd laughed at cancer until the very end, told him to live, to love again, to not waste the life she didn't get to finish. Gerald pulled out the ring again, looked at it sitting in his palm. He'd told Martina he bought it to remember that good things still existed. He hadn't told her he'd bought it, because the moment she walked into that pawn shop, something inside him woke up, something he thought had died with his wife. Hope, dangerous, fragile, absolutely terrifying hope. Thursday, he whispered to himself. 3 days away. He could do this. He could have coffee with a woman and not completely fall apart. Probably. Outside, the sun was setting over the Blue Ridge Mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere across town, a woman and her son were eating dinner without worry for the first time in months. And Gerald McMillan, billionaire widower, father of one, realized he was absolutely doomed, because he was already counting the hours until Thursday. Thursday morning arrived wrapped in fog. Martina stood outside Grit Coffee for 5 full minutes before she could make herself go inside. Her hands were shaking. Ridiculous. She was 35 years old, not some teenager meeting a boy. Except Gerald McMillan wasn't a boy. He was a man who'd given her $8,000 without blinking. A man whose eyes had looked sad and kind at the same time. A man she'd researched obsessively for 3 days until she knew things that made her stomach flip. Billionaire. Actual billionaire. The articles called him a tech genius, a philanthropist, Virginia's most eligible widower, though that phrase made her want to throw her phone. His wife had been beautiful, blonde, delicate, everything Martina wasn't. Stop it, she whispered to herself. This wasn't a date, this was coffee. Thank you, coffee. That's all. She pushed open the door. Grit was exactly the kind of place you'd expect near a university. Exposed brick walls covered in local art, mismatched furniture, the smell of espresso and baked goods, students hunched over laptops, professors arguing about philosophy in the corner. Gerald sat at a table by the window. He saw her immediately. Stood up, smiled. Martina's heart did something complicated. He was wearing a grey Henley and dark jeans. His hair was still perfectly messy. He looked like he belonged in this casual coffee shop, and also like he could buy the entire building without checking his bank account. "You came," he said as she approached. "I said I would." She slid into the chair across from him. "I'm not really in the habit of lying to people who saved my life." "I didn't save your life." "You absolutely did." Martina set her purse down. Inside was a carefully budgeted wallet. She'd paid rent, bought Matteo shoes and winter clothes, put money toward Mum's bills, put $500 in savings for the first time in 2 years. "I had 5 days before they evicted us. No job, no options. You gave me options." Gerald looked uncomfortable with the gratitude. He shifted in his seat. "I'm glad I could help. How's Matteo?" "Over the moon about his new sneakers. He wore them to bed the first night." Martina felt her throat tighten. "He's a good kid. He doesn't complain. Even when things are bad, he tries to make me feel better. 6 years old, and he's trying to take care of me." "Sounds like he learned that from you. Or I broke him by being a disaster of a mother who can't keep a job." "Don't do that." Gerald's voice went firm. "Don't tear yourself down. You're raising a kid alone, working multiple jobs, taking care of your mother. You're not a disaster. You're a warrior." Martina blinked. No one had called her a warrior, ever. Struggling, maybe. Tough, occasionally. But warrior sounded like something worth being. "I lost my nursing job because I kept missing shifts," she said quietly. "Mum would have episodes. The facility would call. I'd have to leave. My boss was understanding until he wasn't. That's not your fault. Feels like it is." A barista appeared. Young woman with purple hair and a nose ring. "What can I get you guys?" "Large coffee, black," Gerald said, then looked at Martina. "And whatever she wants." "And food. Have you eaten?" "I'm fine. That's not what I asked. Have you eaten today?" Martina's face heated. "I gave Matteo breakfast." "And yourself?" "Coffee's fine." Gerald turned to the barista. 2 blueberry muffins, 1 breakfast sandwich, large latte, and... He looked at Martina. "How do you take your coffee?" "You don't have to. I'm buying you coffee, Martina. Let me buy you coffee." She swallowed. "Latte, vanilla, extra shot." The barista scribbled the order and disappeared. Martina stared at the table. "You can't just buy me things every time you see me." "Why not?" "Because it's weird." "Is it?" Gerald leaned back. "I bought my assistant coffee this morning, bought my daughter breakfast, bought my landscaper lunch last week when he was working through his break. I buy people things. That's just what I do." "That's different." "How?" "Because those people weren't sitting across from him with their heart beating too fast. Because those people probably didn't lie awake at night wondering what it would feel like if he smiled at them. Because this felt like something and Martina couldn't afford something. It just is," she said. Gerald studied her. Really looked at her. like he could see through every defense she'd built. You're not used to people helping you. I'm used to people helping when it benefits them. What do I get out of this? I don't know yet, but there's always something. His expression shifted, went sad around the edges. My wife used to say that cynicism is just hope that's been disappointed too many times. Martina's chest ached. She sounds like she was smart. She was. Gerald's fingers drummed the table. She died 5 years ago. Leukemia. We had 7 months from diagnosis to the end. 7 months of watching her disappear. I'm so sorry. Everyone's sorry. He said it without bitterness. Just fact. Sorry doesn't bring her back. Doesn't make Penelope stop asking why Mama can't come to her school plays. Doesn't make the house feel less empty. The barista returned with their order, set everything down, disappeared again. Martina wrapped her hands around the warm latte. Is that why you gave me the money? Because of her? Partly. Gerald broke off a piece of muffin. The day before Elizabeth died, she made me promise something. She said I had more money than I could ever spend, and if I ever had the chance to really help someone, I should do it. No questions, no conditions, just help. So, I'm a charity case. No, his voice went sharp. You're a woman who needed help and accepted it. That takes courage. Most people are too proud. They'd rather drown than grab a hand. I almost was, but you weren't. He met her eyes. You put your son first. You swallowed your pride. You did what you had to do. That's not weakness. That's love. Martina's vision blurred. She blinked hard, took a sip of coffee to buy time. You're very good at saying things that make me want to cry in public. Sorry. Don't be. I haven't cried in front of anyone but Matteo in 3 years. Feels kind of good to want to. They sat in silence for a moment. Comfortable silence. The kind that didn't need filling. Tell me about Penelope, Martina said finally. Gerald's whole face changed, softened. She's 7, brilliant, terrifying. Looks exactly like Elizabeth but acts exactly like me, which is probably karma. She's obsessed with space right now. Wants to be an astronaut. Last week she tried to build a rocket in the backyard. Did it work? Depends on your definition of work. It launched. It also took out 3 fence posts and scared the neighbors. Martina laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised her. Matteo wants to be a paleontologist. He checks out every dinosaur book the library has. Lectures me about the Cretaceous period while I'm trying to make dinner. They should meet. The words hung in the air. Significant. Weighted. Should they? Martina asked carefully. Gerald's jaw tightened. I don't know. Maybe. Is that crazy? We barely know each other. Yes. But you're thinking about it. Yes. Me too. He ran a hand through his hair. Made it messier. I haven't done this since Elizabeth. Haven't wanted to. And I know this isn't. I know I'm probably reading this wrong. You came here to say thank you, not to let some stranger talk about introducing kids. Martina should agree, should nod and smile and finish her coffee and leave, should go back to her life and let Gerald Macmillan be a strange, generous memory. Instead, she said, "What if you're not reading it wrong?" Gerald went very still. What? What if I'm sitting here wondering the same thing you are? What if I spent 3 days researching you online like a creep? What if I changed my outfit 4 times this morning because I wanted to look nice but not like I was trying too hard? Were you? His voice dropped. Got rougher. Trying too hard. Wondering. Martina's pulse hammered. Maybe. That's dangerous. I know. I'm a mess. I work 80 hours a week because if I stop moving I have to feel things. I've got a 7-year-old who still sleeps in my bed sometimes because she has nightmares about losing me too. I live in a house that's too big because my wife wanted cozy and I gave her a mansion. I'm broken in ways I don't even understand yet. I'm a 35-year-old single mother with no job and a son who needs me more than I can give him. I've got a mother who doesn't remember my name half the time and medical bills that make me physically ill. My ex-husband sends Christmas cards from California with his new family, while our son asks why Daddy doesn't call. I'm hanging on by my fingernails and most days I'm not sure why I'm bothering. They stared at each other across the table. We're both broken, Gerald whispered. Completely. This is probably a bad idea. Probably. I really want to see you again. Martina's breath caught. Yeah? Yeah. He smiled. Tentative, hopeful, terrified. Maybe dinner? Somewhere nice? Or not nice? Whatever you want. I just want more time to figure out if this feeling is real or if I'm losing my mind. What feeling? Like I've been underwater for 5 years and I just broke the surface. Oh no. Martina was in so much trouble. I need to be careful. Matteo's been through enough. I can't bring someone into his life unless I'm sure. I understand. And I need to know this isn't some rich guy savior fantasy. I'm not a project. I'm not broken furniture you get to restore. Gerald flinched. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what this is. Neither do I. He leaned forward. But I know it's not that. I know I saw you in that pawn shop and something in me woke up. I know I've thought about you every day since. I know that scares the hell out of me because I buried those feelings with Elizabeth, and I didn't think I'd ever feel them again. You're feeling them now, Martina whispered. I'm feeling them now. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Text from the memory care facility. Rosa asking for you. Having a good day. Want a visit? Good days were rare. She should go. Should take advantage while Mum still knew who she was. I have to go. My mother's having a clear day. Those don't happen often. Of course. Gerald stood when she did. Manners. Her grandmother would have approved. Can I walk you to your car? It's 2 blocks away. Then I'll walk you 2 blocks. They left the coffee shop together. The fog had burned off. Charlottesville gleamed in the late morning sun. The university's rotunda rose white and perfect against blue sky. Students rushed past with backpacks and coffee cups. The world kept spinning like it always did. But something had changed. Martina felt it in her bones. They reached her car. Old Honda. Dent in the passenger door. Check engine light that had been on for 6 months. This is me, she said. Gerald looked at the car. Didn't comment on its condition. Just nodded. Thank you for coming. For giving me a chance to explain why I did what I did. Thank you for the coffee. And the food. And the $8,000. She laughed. This is surreal. Little bit. He stepped closer. Not crowding, just near. Dinner? This weekend, maybe? I can get a sitter for Penelope. You can get someone to watch Matteo, or we bring them. Whatever makes you comfortable. Martina thought about Matteo's face when he'd asked if Gerald was magic. Thought about her own reflection in the mirror that morning, trying on different smiles to see which one looked less desperate. Thought about how Gerald's eyes had looked when he talked about his daughter. She thought about what Mum used to say before the dementia took her words. Baby girl, sometimes you gotta jump and build your wings on the way down. Saturday, dinner, just us, no kids yet. I need to figure out what this is first. Saturday. Gerald's smile could have lit the whole city. I'll pick you up at 7. I'll text you my address. I already know your address. She raised an eyebrow. Stalker much? Thorough. I wanted to make sure you were okay. After the pawn shop, I may have done some research. I did the same thing. I know. My security system flagged when someone accessed my Wikipedia page 18 times from the same IP address. Martina's face went hot. Oh my God. Don't be embarrassed. Gerald laughed. Real laughter. Deep and warm. I'm weirdly flattered. Usually people research me to figure out how to sue me or sell me things. I was trying to figure out if you were real. Did you decide? She looked at him. Really looked. Saw the grief lines around his eyes. The hope mixed with fear. The way he held himself like someone who'd learned the world could take everything in a heartbeat. Yeah, I decided. And? You're real. That's the scary part. Gerald reached out. Hesitated. Let his hand fall. I should let you go. Your mother's waiting. She won't remember I was there in an hour. But you'll remember. That's what matters. Martina got in her car, rolled down the window. Saturday, 7. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it. She pulled away from the curb, watched him in the rearview mirror. He stood on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, watching her go. Her phone rang before she made it 3 blocks. Hello? It's Gerald. I know you just left. I'm calling anyway. Martina smiled so hard her face hurt. Why? Because I forgot to tell you something. What? You look beautiful when you laugh. I wanted to make sure you knew. The line went dead. Martina pulled over, put her forehead on the steering wheel. Tried to remember how to breathe. She was 35 years old, single mother, broke, scared, barely holding her life together. And a billionaire widower had just made her feel like the most important person in the world. Mum, she whispered to the empty car, I think I'm in trouble. The good kind. Maybe, I hope. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Gerald. Also forgot to mention, I'm terrified, in case that helps. She texted back, "It does. Saturday. Don't mess this up. I'll try my best." Martina drove to the memory care facility, with her heart doing things it hadn't done since before Diego, since before responsibility and exhaustion had replaced hope. She was falling. She could feel it. And for the first time in years, she wasn't scared of the landing. Saturday arrived like a promise and a threat all at once. Martina stood in front of her closet at 6:15, wearing her third outfit and hating all of them. The black dress made her look like she was going to a funeral. The blue one was too tight. The red one screamed, "Trying too hard. Mama, you look pretty." Mateo sat on her bed, swinging his legs. His new sneakers lit up when he moved. He hadn't stopped wearing them. "I look like I don't know what I'm doing. Why are you so nervous?" Because the last time she'd been on a real date, she'd been 29 and married to a man who'd promised forever and delivered 3 years. Because Gerald Macmillan lived in a world she'd only seen in magazines. Because her heart was doing things she'd specifically forbidden it to do. "I'm not nervous," she lied. "You changed your shirt like 100 times. 3 times. That's still a lot." Mateo tilted his head, studied her with eyes that understood too much for 6 years old. "Is it the man from the pawn shop? The magic one?" Martina sat down next to her son, pulled him close. He smelled like the cheap shampoo she bought in bulk, and something uniquely him. "Yeah, baby, it's him. Are you gonna marry him?" "What?" "No, we're just having dinner. But you like him." "I barely know him." Mateo looked at her like she was being intentionally difficult. "But when you do know him, will you like him? Smart kid. Terrifying kid. Maybe. Is that okay?" "Does he have kids?" "A daughter. She's 7. Her name's Penelope." "Does she like dinosaurs?" "I don't know. I think she likes space." Mateo considered this. "Space is cool. We could probably be friends." Martina's chest ached. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? This is just dinner. Just 2 adults having food and conversation." "Okay, Mama." He hugged her tight. "But you should wear the red dress. You look happy in red." She looked down at the dress she'd dismissed. "Red wrap dress? Nothing fancy." But Mateo was right. She looked alive in it, like someone who remembered how to hope. "Red it is." At 6:45, her phone rang. Gerald's name lit up the screen. "Hello, I'm outside." He sounded nervous. Gerald Macmillan, billionaire tech genius, sounded nervous about picking her up for dinner. "Is it weird that I'm early? I can drive around the block." "Don't drive around the block. I'm ready." "Lie." She wasn't remotely ready. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. "Okay, I'll wait in the car." "You don't have to." "Martina, I'm going to wait in the car like a gentleman, and you're going to come out when you're actually ready, and we're both going to pretend I'm not completely terrified." She smiled. "Deal." Her neighbor, old Mrs. Patterson from next door, was babysitting Mateo, 70 years old and sharp as a knife. She'd already arrived, armed with crossword puzzles and homemade cookies. "You look beautiful," Mrs. Patterson said when Martina emerged from the bedroom. "Very beautiful." "This man? He's good?" "I think so." "You think, or you know?" "I'm trying to figure that out." Mrs. Patterson nodded, patted Martina's cheek with a weathered hand. "Good. You deserve figuring out. You deserve more than struggling." Martina kissed Mateo goodbye, reminded him about bedtime, grabbed her purse, walked out into the spring evening before her courage could fail. Gerald stood beside a car that probably cost more than her annual rent. Sleek, silver, expensive in a way that didn't need to announce itself. He wore dark slacks and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up. No tie, hair still perfectly imperfect. He looked like money and grief and hope all wrapped together. "Hi," she said. "Hi." His eyes traveled over her. Slow. Appreciative. "You look incredible. You don't look so bad yourself." "I changed 4 times." Martina laughed. "I changed 3. We're both a mess. Completely." He opened the car door for her. She slid into leather seats that probably cost more than her entire car. The interior smelled new, rich, like a life she'd never touched. Gerald got in the driver's side, started the engine. It purred like a content cat. "Where are we going?" Martina asked. "Do you trust me?" "I barely know you." "That's not what I asked." She looked at him. Really looked. saw the same fear she felt reflected in his eyes. "Yeah, I trust you." "Good." He pulled away from the curb. "Because I'm taking you somewhere I haven't been since Elizabeth died, and if I'm going to do this, I want to do it with you." They drove into the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains as the sun painted the sky in shades of copper and gold. Gerald didn't explain where they were going, just drove with one hand on the wheel, the other drumming nervously against his thigh. "Tell me something true," Martina said after 10 minutes of silence. "What?" "Something true. Something you don't tell people." Gerald glanced at her. "Why?" "Because I'm scared and you're scared, and if we're going to do this, I need to know you're real." He drove for another minute, then said, "I still sleep on my side of the bed. Elizabeth's side is exactly how she left it. Her book is still on the nightstand. Her reading glasses. I can't make myself move them." Martina's throat closed. "Gerald, your turn. Something true." She took a breath. "Sometimes I resent my mother. She doesn't know me anymore, but I still have to visit. Still have to pay bills. Still have to watch her disappear. And I hate myself for resenting her because it's not her fault. But I'm so tired of being the strong one. That doesn't make you a bad daughter. Doesn't make me a good one either. Makes you human." They turned onto a private road. Gravel crunched under the tires. Trees crowded close on either side, their spring leaves bright green in the fading light. "Where are we?" Martina asked. "You'll see." The road opened into a clearing. Martina's breath caught. A restaurant sat nestled against the mountainside. Not fancy, just a small building with wide windows and a deck that overlooked the valley. Lights strung between the trees. A handful of tables, most empty. The kind of place locals knew about, but tourists never found. "This is Stella's. Elizabeth and I came here on our first date. And our last date, the week before she went into the hospital. She loved this place. Said it felt like the world couldn't touch us here. Gerald, we don't have to." "I want to." He turned off the engine. Looked at her. "I've been avoiding this place for 5 years because it hurt too much. But tonight, with you, it doesn't hurt. It just feels like remembering something good." Martina reached across the console, took his hand, their fingers interlaced like they'd done this 1,000 times. "Okay, let's go remember something good." The owner recognized Gerald immediately. An older woman with steel-gray hair and kind eyes. She hugged him like family, tears streaming down her face. "Gerald Macmillan, I thought I'd never see you here again." "I thought so too, Stella." He gestured to Martina. "This is Martina. Martina, this is Stella. She's known me since I was 25 and stupid." "Still stupid," Stella said fondly. "Just richer now." She turned to Martina. "Any woman who gets this one back here is special. Come, I'll give you the best table." She led them to the deck, a corner table with a view that made Martina forget how to breathe. The valley spread out below them, all rolling hills and distant farms. The sun was setting, turning everything gold and violet and impossibly beautiful. "This is..." Martina couldn't find words. "I know." Gerald pulled out her chair. Sat across from her, Elizabeth said if heaven had a view, it would look like this. They ordered wine. Food. Martina didn't even look at prices because she knew she couldn't afford anything and Gerald wouldn't let her pay anyway. She was learning to accept that. Learning that sometimes accepting help was brave, not weak. "Tell me about Matteo. Really tell me." Not the sanitized version. So she did. Told him about dinosaur obsessions and library books, about how Matteo had cried when Diego left but pretended he was fine, about how her son tried to take care of her instead of the other way around, about the morning she'd found him trying to fix their broken coffee maker with tape and determination. "He sounds amazing." "He is. He's better than I deserve." "Stop doing that." "What?" "Acting like you're not enough. You're raising an incredible kid alone. You're surviving impossible circumstances. You're more than enough." Martina's eyes burned. "You barely know me. I know you sold your grandmother's ring to feed your son. I know you work yourself to exhaustion taking care of everyone but yourself. I know you're sitting here in a dress that makes you look like fire, trying not to let me see how scared you are. I know enough. Your turn. Tell me about Penelope." Gerald's whole face softened. He talked about rocket-building disasters and questions about space that he couldn't answer, about how she'd cried on the anniversary of Elizabeth's death and said she couldn't remember Mama's voice anymore, about bedtime rituals and nightmare cuddles and the way she looked at him like he hung the moon. She wants siblings. Asks all the time when she'll get a brother or sister. I don't know how to tell her that would require me to. Fall in love again, Martina finished. Yeah. Is that what this is? The beginning of falling? Gerald set down his wine glass, reached across the table, took both her hands in his. I think I started falling in the pawn shop. When you looked at me like you couldn't believe someone would help without wanting something back. When you held your son's hand like he was the only thing keeping you standing. When you took the money because you were brave enough to put him first. Gerald, I'm not saying I love you. We barely know each other, but I'm saying this feels like standing on the edge of something huge, and I'm terrified, and I want to jump anyway. Martina could barely breathe. I have so much baggage. So do I. I'm broke and unemployed and barely holding my life together. I'm a widower who works obsessively and hasn't dealt with his grief. We're both struggling. This is moving fast. It is. His thumb stroked her knuckles. But fast doesn't mean wrong. The sunset blazed behind him. The valley glowed. Stella's hummed with quiet conversation and clinking glasses. The world spun on like it always did. But here, in this moment, Martina felt something shift. Felt the possibility of something she'd stopped believing in. I'm going to kiss you, if that's okay. I've been thinking about it since the coffee shop. Since before the coffee shop. Since you walked out of that pawn shop and I realized I'd just met someone who was going to change my life. We're in public. I don't care. People are watching. Let them. He stood, came around the table, pulled her gently to her feet, cupped her face in his hands like she was made of something precious. Tell me to stop, he whispered. Don't stop. He kissed her, soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she'd break, then deeper, surer. His hands slid into her hair, her fingers gripped his shirt. The world disappeared into nothing but this moment, this feeling, this impossible, terrifying, beautiful thing blooming between them. When they finally broke apart, Stella was standing at the kitchen door, wiping her eyes with her apron. Elizabeth would have loved you, she called out. Martina's breath hitched. You think? I know. Gerald pressed his forehead to hers. She made me promise to love again, to live, to not waste the years she didn't get. I think she'd take one look at you and say, finally, you found someone who sees you. I do see you. Martina's hands framed his face. I see a man who loved his wife so much he kept her side of the bed sacred. Who gives strangers $8,000 because his wife asked him to be kind? Who builds rocket ships with his daughter and comes to restaurants that hurt because he's trying to heal? I see you, Gerald. He kissed her again. Slower this time, like they had all the time in the world. Maybe they did. They sat back down, finished dinner, talked about everything and nothing, shared dessert, watched the stars emerge over the mountains. I should get you home, before I do something really stupid like ask you to move in with me. Martina laughed. We've known each other a week. Feels longer. Feels like forever and 5 minutes at the same time. He drove her home through darkness punctuated by fireflies, pulled up in front of her apartment building, walked her to the door like a man from a different era. Can I see you tomorrow? I know it's fast. I know we should slow down, but I don't want to. Tomorrow's Sunday. I visit my mother. Can I come with you? Martina froze. What? Can I come with you? To see your mother? I'd like to meet her, and you shouldn't have to do hard things alone. You don't have to do that. I want to, if you'll let me. She should say no, should keep him separate from the messy parts of her life, should protect herself from the disaster of letting him in too deep too fast. Instead, she said, pick me up at 2. I'll be here at 1:59. He kissed her goodnight, sweet and soft and full of promise, then waited until she was inside before he left. Martina leaned against the closed door, touched her lips, tried to remember how to function. Mrs. Patterson appeared from the living room, grinning like she'd won the lottery. Good date? Yeah, really good. He's coming back? Tomorrow. We're visiting my mother. Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows shot up. Fast. Terrifying. Good terrifying or bad terrifying. Martina thought about Gerald's hands in her hair, his voice saying he'd started falling. The way he'd looked at her like she was something worth cherishing. Good. Definitely good. She paid Mrs. Patterson, checked on Mateo, stood in his doorway watching him sleep in his light-up sneakers, still wearing them because they made him happy. Her phone buzzed. I'm still thinking about kissing you. Martina smiled so hard her face hurt. Me too. Tomorrow can't come fast enough. It's only 12 hours away. Feels like forever. She climbed into bed, stared at the ceiling, tried to process that her life had completely changed in 7 days. 1 week ago she'd been selling her grandmother's ring in a pawn shop, desperate and alone. Tonight she'd been kissed by a man who made her believe in possibilities. Tomorrow he was meeting her mother. Next week, who knew? She was falling, fast and hard and completely out of control. And for the first time in years, falling didn't feel like dying. It felt like flying. Family, if you've stayed with this story until now, it clearly touched your heart. Share your thoughts below and tell me where you're watching from. And if you haven't yet, like the video and subscribe to join our romance and love stories community. Hit the hype button if this story meant something to you. It truly helps our channel grow. Let's keep going. Sunday afternoon arrived with clouds threatening rain. Martina stood at her window watching for Gerald's car, her stomach in knots. "You're doing the nervous thing again," Matteo said from the couch. He was building a dinosaur out of Legos, tongue stuck out in concentration. "I'm not nervous. You're wearing your worry face." Martina turned from the window. "I have a worry face." "Yeah, your eyebrows do this thing." He scrunched his face up in demonstration. "Like you're trying to solve a really hard math problem. When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart, Mama. You just forget sometimes." The silver car pulled up at exactly 1:59. Martina's heart jumped. "He's here," Matteo announced unnecessarily. He abandoned his Legos and pressed his face to the window. "Whoa, that's a really nice car." "Matteo, we talked about this. Mr. Macmillan has money. We don't. That doesn't make him better or us worse. It just is." "I know, Mama." He looked up at her with those understanding eyes. "But can I at least think the car is cool?" "The car is very cool." Gerald knocked. 3 soft raps that somehow sounded nervous. Martina opened the door. He stood there in jeans and a grey sweater, holding flowers. Not roses. Wildflowers. The kind that grew on the roadside and cost nothing but looked like bottled sunshine. "Hi," he said. "Hi." She took the flowers. Their fingers brushed. That same electric warmth. "These are beautiful. Picked them on the way. There's a field about 2 miles from here that's just covered in them. I thought they seemed more you than some fancy arrangement." Behind her, Matteo made a sound suspiciously like, "Oh." Gerald's eyes shifted, landed on her son. His whole expression changed, softened. "You must be Matteo. You must be the magic man." Matteo stepped forward, stuck out his hand like a tiny businessman. "Mama says you're not actually magic, but I'm not totally convinced." Gerald shook his hand solemnly. "What would convince you? Can you make dinosaurs come back to life?" "Not yet. Still working on that technology." "Then I guess you're just really nice instead of magic." Matteo grinned. "That's pretty good too." Martina watched them, her son, and this man who'd appeared out of nowhere and turned her life sideways. Gerald crouched down to Matteo's level, pointed at the Lego dinosaur. "Velociraptor? You know dinosaurs?" Matteo's whole face lit up. "Little bit. My daughter's into space. But we went through a dinosaur phase last year. I know more about the Cretaceous period than any adult should." "Mama!" Matteo turned to her, vibrating with excitement. "He knows about the Cretaceous period." "I heard, baby. Can he stay? Please. We could build dinosaurs together." Gerald stood, looked at Martina. "I'd love to, but your mama and I have plans today. Maybe another time? Promise?" "I promise." Matteo studied him, then nodded. "Okay. You seem like someone who keeps promises." "I try my best." Mrs. Patterson appeared from the kitchen where she'd been pretending not to eavesdrop. "I'll watch the boy. You two go. Do your thing." "Our thing is visiting my mother in a memory care facility. Not exactly romantic. Love isn't just the romantic parts. It's the hard parts too. Now go. Matteo and I have cookies to make." They drove toward the facility in comfortable silence. Gerald's hand found hers across the console, held on like an anchor. "You don't have to do this. Meeting my mother when she doesn't even know who I am half the time. It's depressing and hard, and not exactly a fun second date. Third date. Coffee was the second. And I want to do this. You shouldn't carry hard things alone. I've been carrying them alone for years." "I know. That's why I'm here." The Willows Memory Care Facility sat on 5 acres of carefully maintained grounds. It looked expensive because it was. Martina had taken out a loan to cover the first year. was still drowning in the payments. They signed in. Gerald didn't comment on the cost breakdown posted by the front desk, didn't ask how she afforded it, just walked beside her down hallways that smelled like antiseptic and sadness. Room 237. She's in the good wing. Private room. I couldn't put her in the shared rooms. She gets agitated around too many people. Martina, Gerald stopped her, turned her to face him. You don't have to justify your choices to me. I feel like I do. This place costs $4,000 a month. I'm unemployed and broke, and somehow I'm paying for premium memory care. Because you love her, because she's your mother, because you're doing the best you can with impossible circumstances. Martina's eyes burned. The loan shark I borrowed from would disagree about the best I can part. Gerald went very still. Loan shark? She hadn't meant to say that. It's fine. I'm handling it. Martina. I said I'm handling it. She pulled away, knocked on room 237. Mum? It's me. I brought someone to meet you. The woman sitting by the window looked nothing like the mother Martina remembered. Rosa Medina had been vibrant once, full of life and laughter and stories about growing up in Puerto Rico. Now she was 70 pounds lighter, her dark hair gone white, her eyes foggy with confusion. But today was a good day. Martina could tell immediately. Mum's eyes focused when she turned. Recognition flickered. Marty? The old nickname, the one nobody else used. My baby girl? Yeah, Mum, it's me. Martina crossed the room, knelt beside her mother's chair. How are you feeling today? Good, confused. The nurses keep telling me things I don't remember. Rosa's gaze shifted to Gerald. Who's this? You got married again? That Diego was no good. I told you. No, Mum, not married. This is Gerald. What was he? Boyfriend felt too small. Man I'm falling for felt too big. He's someone special. Gerald stepped forward, extended his hand. It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Medina. Martina talks about you all the time. Rosa took his hand, studied him with surprising sharpness. You're rich. Mum! Martina's face flamed. What? I can't tell? Look at his shoes. Those are expensive shoes. Rosa turned back to Gerald. You treating my daughter right? Trying to, ma'am. You better. She's had enough heartbreak. That Diego, he left her with a baby and bills and promises that meant nothing. You gonna do the same? No, ma'am. How do I know? Gerald knelt beside Martina, looked Rosa straight in the eye. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you love. My wife died 5 years ago, left me with a daughter and grief I'm still figuring out. I know what broken promises feel like. I'd never do that to someone else. Rosa's expression softened. You're a widower? Yes, ma'am. That's different then. You know about loss. You know about holding on when everything's falling apart. She reached out, patted his cheek with a trembling hand. You'll do. You're better than Diego already. That's a low bar, Mum, Martina said, but she was smiling. They spent an hour with Rosa. She drifted in and out of clarity. Sometimes she knew Martina. Sometimes she called her by her sister's name. Sometimes she didn't know anyone at all. Gerald didn't flinch. He sat and listened to stories Rosa had told 100 times, laughed at jokes that weren't funny anymore, held Martina's hand when her mother looked at her with complete blankness and asked the nurse who these strangers were. That's the worst part, Martina whispered as they walked back down the hallway. The moments when she's here, and then she's just gone. Like someone turned off a light. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't fix dementia. No, but you're not alone with it anymore. Martina stopped walking, turned to face him. They stood in the middle of the hallway, nurses pushing carts around them, families visiting loved ones who didn't remember them. Why are you doing this? Really? Not the line about your wife making you promise to help people. Not the story about seeing me in the pawn shop. Why are you here, Gerald? In this depressing hallway, meeting my mother who doesn't know who I am, involving yourself in my life? Gerald cupped her face, thumbs stroking her cheekbones. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be alive. Not just existing, not just going through motions. Actually alive. Because you look at me and see a person, not a bank account. Because your son shook my hand like a gentleman and asked if I could bring back dinosaurs. Because this is real. This is life. The hard parts and the scary parts and the parts where you don't know if you're strong enough. And I want to be here for it. With you. We've known each other 9 days. I know. This is moving really fast. It is. I have a loan shark, Gerald. An actual loan shark. With interest rates that should be illegal. I borrowed $24,000 to pay for a year of Mum's care, and I'm barely making the payments. His jaw tightened. How much do you owe? No. Martina. No. You're not paying it. You already gave me $8,000. You bought me dinner. You brought me flowers. You're not paying off my loan shark debt. Why not? Because that's not what this is. This isn't you rescuing me. This is two people trying to figure out if what they're feeling is real. It's real for me. It's real for me too. That's what terrifies me. Martina stepped back, put space between them before she did something stupid like let him save her again. I need to handle my own problems. I need to prove I can stand on my own feet. You've been standing on your own feet for years. There's no shame in letting someone help you. There is when helping becomes fixing, when I become your project instead of your partner. Gerald was quiet for a long moment, then said, "What if I don't pay the loan shark? What if I just give you a job?" "What? A job? At my company? I need someone to run community outreach, someone who understands what it's like to struggle, what it's like to need help and be too proud to ask for it. Someone who can identify programs worth funding and people worth helping." He was talking faster now, the idea taking shape. "It pays $90,000 a year, full benefits, insurance that would cover your mother's care. You'd be qualified. You're smart and compassionate, and you know how to stretch a dollar until it screams." Martina's head spun. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a partnership. In my foundation, the Elizabeth Macmillan Foundation, we give away $10 million a year, and I've been doing it badly because I don't know who actually needs help. You do. You've lived it. Gerald, it's not charity. It's a job. You'd work for it, earn it, but you'd also have stability, income, insurance, a way to pay off the loan shark and take care of your mother and give Matteo the life he deserves. This is a lot. It's not enough." He took her hands. "Let me do this. Not because you need rescuing, because I need you, because the foundation needs you, because this is how we build something together. Me with resources, you with wisdom, both of us trying to make the world a little less broken." Martina couldn't breathe. $90,000 a year. Insurance. Stability. The ability to pay off the loan shark and stop lying awake at night doing impossible math. The ability to stand beside Gerald as an equal, not a charity case. "I'd be working for you," she said. "With me. Not for me. With me. What if this thing between us doesn't work out? What if we crash and burn in 3 months? Then you'll still have a job. I'll put it in writing. Contract. Security. You can't lose the job because of our personal relationship. It's separate. You've thought about this. I've thought about nothing else since yesterday. Since I watched you talk about Matteo and saw how fiercely you love. Since you told me about your mother and I saw how heavy you carry everything. I want to make it lighter, not by taking it away, by sharing the weight." Martina looked at this man who'd walked into her life 9 days ago and turned everything upside down. This man who brought wildflowers and met her mother and offered her not rescue but partnership. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, okay. I'll take the job. I'll work for the foundation. I'll help you give away $10 million to people who actually need it." Gerald's smile could have powered the city. Yeah. But Gerald? If this is some elaborate scheme to make me fall in love with you, it's working." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "Good. Because I'm about 90% in love with you already, and that last 10% is just me being terrified." "Only 90%? The other 10 is reserved for when I see you with Matteo, or when you laugh, or when you look at me like I'm not broken, just healing. You're not broken. You're perfect." "I'm really not. Perfect for me then." They stood in that hallway and kissed like teenagers, until a nurse cleared her throat and suggested they take it outside. They drove back to Martina's apartment with fingers interlaced and hearts full. "When do I start?" "Monday, if you want. We'll do paperwork, get you set up. I'll introduce you to the foundation team. That's 2 days away." "Too soon?" "Not soon enough." Gerald pulled up in front of her building, killed the engine, turned to face her. "Martina Medina, 9 days ago you walked into a pawn shop and changed my life. I just want you to know that. You changed mine first. Want to fight about it? Maybe later. Right now I want to go tell my son that I have a job, a real job, and we're going to be okay. You're going to be better than okay." She kissed him, long and slow and full of promise, then climbed out of the car and practically floated into her building. Mrs. Patterson took one look at her face and grinned. "Good visit?" "The best. Told you. The hard parts matter too." Mateo looked up from his cookies. "Did Grandma remember you?" "For a while. She liked Gerald. Everyone likes Gerald. He knows about dinosaurs and he has nice eyes." Martina laughed, pulled her son into a hug. "Guess what, baby?" "What?" "I got a job. A really good job. We're going to be okay now." Mateo hugged her back. "We were always okay, Mama, but I'm glad we're going to be even better okay." That night, after Mateo was asleep and Mrs. Patterson had gone home, Martina sat on her couch with her phone. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified. Hopeful. Like my life just completely changed." "Good terrified or bad terrified?" "Good. Definitely good. Penelope wants to meet you. And Mateo. She's been asking all evening." "Yeah? Yeah. Maybe next weekend? We could do something with the kids. Park or museum or something low pressure. The Natural History Museum has a dinosaur exhibit." "Perfect. Saturday?" "It's a date. A family date." "Is it weird that I'm excited about that?" "Is it weird that I am too?" "We're both weird then. I can live with that." She fell asleep, smiling. For the first time in years, the future didn't look like something to survive. It looked like something to build. The week between Sunday and Saturday felt like both forever and an instant. Martina started at the Macmillan Foundation on Monday morning. The offices occupied the top floor of a glass building in downtown Charlottesville, all sleek lines and expensive furniture and views that made her dizzy. Gerald introduced her to the team, 5 people who looked at her with curiosity and kindness, and gave her an office with windows overlooking the mountains. "This is too much," she'd whispered. "It's exactly enough," he'd replied, then kissed her forehead and left her to figure out how to be a professional, when all she wanted was to follow him into his office and kiss him properly. By Wednesday, she'd reviewed 50 grant applications and cried over half of them. Single mothers, families drowning in medical debt, kids who needed scholarships, people trying desperately to survive circumstances they didn't choose. "I was them," she told Gerald over lunch in his office. 2 weeks ago, I was every single one of these applications. "I know. That's why you're perfect for this." "How do I choose? How do I pick who gets help and who doesn't?" "You do your best. You help who you can. And you remember that something is better than nothing." He'd taken her hand. "You can't save everyone, Martina, but you can save someone. That matters." She'd approved 12 grants by Friday. Watched Gerald sign the checks without blinking. $500,000 to people who needed it. Distributed like it was nothing. Does it ever feel real, having this much money? No. Elizabeth used to say money isn't real until you use it for something that matters. Otherwise it's just numbers on a screen. By Saturday morning, Martina had a paycheck pending, insurance that would cover her mother's care, and a meeting with the loan shark scheduled for Monday to pay off the debt in full. Her life had completely transformed in 2 weeks, and now she was taking her son to meet Gerald's daughter, and her stomach was attempting acrobatics. "Mama, you're doing the worry face again." Mateo stood at the bathroom door, already dressed in his favorite dinosaur shirt. "Miss Penelope is gonna like you." "What if she doesn't?" "Then she has bad taste." "But she won't. You're great." "When did you get so confident?" "I've always been confident. You just worry too much." Gerald picked them up at 10. Penelope sat in the back seat, all dark curls and green eyes and nervous energy. "Hi," she said shyly when Mateo climbed in beside her. "I'm Penelope. Do you really like dinosaurs?" "I really like dinosaurs." "Do you really like space?" "I really like space." "Cool. We can teach each other stuff." Just like that, the kids were fine. They chatted about velociraptors and black holes all the way to the museum, while Martina and Gerald exchanged relieved glances in the front seat. "That was easy," Gerald murmured. "Suspiciously easy. Maybe the universe is finally cutting us a break." The Natural History Museum was packed with families. Kids ran between exhibits while parents tried to maintain order. The dinosaur section towered 3 stories high, dominated by a massive T-Rex skeleton that made Mateo gasp. "It's perfect," he breathed. They spent 2 hours wandering through extinct worlds. Gerald lifted Penelope onto his shoulders so she could see better. Martina held Mateo's hand and listened to him recite facts about the Jurassic period. They looked like a family, felt like a family. It was terrifying and wonderful all at once. "Ice cream," Gerald suggested, when they'd exhausted every exhibit. "Yes," both kids shouted in unison. They found a small shop across from the museum, sat at a corner table with melting cones and happy children. Penelope and Matteo were comparing their dinosaur knowledge, arguing good-naturedly about whether a velociraptor could beat a pterodactyl in a fight. "They're adorable," Martina said. Terrifying thought. What if they become best friends? What if they become siblings? The words hung in the air. Too big, too soon, too real. Gerald's hand found hers under the table. "Would that be so bad? We've known each other 2 weeks. Feels longer." "Gerald." "Martina." The voice came from behind her. Male, familiar, impossible. She turned, and her world tilted sideways. Diego Medina stood 3 feet away, looking exactly the same and completely different. Still handsome in that easy way that had made her stupid at 28, but older now, weathered. His smile was uncertain. "Diego," her voice came out flat. "What are you doing here?" "I live here again. Moved back last month. The thing in California didn't work out." He glanced at Matteo. His son, the child he'd abandoned 3 years ago. "Hey, buddy, you got big." Matteo stared at his father like he was looking at a stranger. "Hi." That single word held universes of hurt. Diego shifted uncomfortably. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" "No." Martina stood, stepped between Diego and her son. "You don't get to show up after 3 years and ask for minutes. I'm his father. You're a sperm donor who sends Christmas cards. His father is the one who reads him bedtime stories and buys him shoes and stays." Gerald stood too, moved to Martina's side. Protective but not aggressive, just present. Diego's eyes narrowed. "Who's this? New boyfriend already? That's none of your business. It is if he's around my son." "Your son?" Martina's voice rose. Several families turned to look. She didn't care. "You haven't called in 2 years. Haven't sent child support in 3. You have no right to that word." "I want to make it right." Diego's voice cracked. "I screwed up. I know I did. But I'm back now. I want to be in Matteo's life." Matteo's small voice cut through the tension. "I don't want you in my life." Everyone froze. Diego looked stricken. "Matteo, you left. You said you'd call and you didn't. You said you'd visit and you didn't." Mama cried. I heard her. She tried to hide it, but I heard her crying in the bathroom. Matteo's eyes were dry. Too dry. Kids his age should cry, should rage. But he just looked tired. "You don't get to come back and pretend you didn't break everything. I'm sorry." "Okay, but sorry doesn't mean I have to forgive you." Penelope grabbed Matteo's hand. This little girl who'd lost her own mother, offering solidarity to a boy who'd been abandoned by his father. "We should go," Gerald said quietly. "Martina," she nodded. Couldn't speak past the rage and grief clogging her throat. "Wait." Diego pulled an envelope from his pocket, thrust it at Martina. "I know I don't deserve it, but I want visitation. Formal visitation. My lawyer says I have rights." The envelope contained legal documents, a petition for shared custody, visitation schedules, Diego's signature already at the bottom, waiting for hers. "You're suing me for custody?" Her voice shook. "You abandoned your son for 3 years, and now you're suing me? I just want to be his dad again." "You were never his dad. You were just the guy who left." Diego's face hardened. "Sign the papers, Martina, or I'll take you to court. And unlike you, I can actually afford a lawyer now. Get out." Gerald's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. "Before I forget, I'm a gentleman. This doesn't concern you. It concerns me when you threaten the woman I love." Gerald stepped forward, not threatening, just immovable. "Walk away. Now." Diego looked between them, saw something in Gerald's face that made him step back. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is." Matteo's small voice again, so much braver than any 6-year-old should have to be. "I don't want you. I want him." He pointed at Gerald. "He shows up. He keeps promises. He makes Mama smile. You just make her cry." Diego flinched like he'd been slapped, opened his mouth, closed it, turned and walked away without another word. The ice cream was melting. The museum crowd had moved on. Penelope was still holding Matteo's hand. "I'm sorry," Martina whispered. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was back. I didn't know." Stop apologizing. Gerald pulled her into his arms. This isn't your fault. He's going to take me to court. He's going to try to take Matteo. Then we'll fight him. Gerald, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He pulled back, looked her in the eyes. That little boy just told his father he wants me instead. I'm not walking away from that. I'm not walking away from either of you. Matteo crashed into both of them, arms around their waists, face pressed against Martina's side. I meant it, Mama. I want Gerald. Not him. Never him. Martina sank to her knees, pulled her son close. Okay, baby. Okay. We'll figure this out. Together, Gerald added. We'll figure it out together. Penelope joined the hug, this tiny 7-year-old with her mother's eyes, wrapping her arms around all of them. We're a family now, right? Families stick together. And just like that, in an ice cream shop with melting cones and legal threats hanging over their heads, they became something more than two broken people trying to heal. They became a unit. Gerald drove them back to Martina's apartment. The kids were quiet in the back seat, processing. Adults weren't the only ones who needed time to understand catastrophe. Come up, Martina said when they arrived. Please, I need to show you something. He followed her inside. The kids immediately disappeared into Matteo's room, seeking the comfort of dinosaurs and normalcy. Martina pulled out a folder from her closet, laid it on the kitchen table. This is everything. Divorce decree. Child support orders he never followed. Emails from his lawyer claiming he's been trying to reconnect for months. It's all lies. He hasn't tried anything. Gerald flipped through the documents. His jaw got tighter with each page. He owes you $45,000 in back child support, which I'll never see. You might. If he's filing for custody, he'll need to show he's financially responsible. A judge will ask why he's $45,000 behind. Can he actually get custody? Shared custody? Gerald was quiet for too long. Tell me the truth, Martina said. He's the biological father. If he can prove he's stable now, employed, has housing. Yeah. A judge might grant visitation. Maybe even partial custody. Family courts prefer both parents involved when possible. Martina's knees went weak. She sat down hard. I can't let him take Matteo. He won't take him. Worst case, supervised visitation. But Martina, Matteo's old enough that his preference matters. What he said today, about wanting me instead, that counts. A judge will listen to that. I need a lawyer. A good one. I know the best family law attorney in Virginia. I'll call her tonight. Gerald, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Actually, I'm insisting. He took her hands. 2 weeks ago, I watched you sell your grandmother's ring to feed your son. You think I'm going to stand back and let his deadbeat father show up and threaten everything you've built? Not happening. This is moving so fast. I know. We were supposed to be taking it slow, getting to know each other. And now we're talking about lawyers and custody, and Matteo calling you his family. Do you want to slow down? Gerald asked quietly. Martina looked at him, really looked, saw the man who'd brought wildflowers and met her mother and offered her a job instead of charity, the man who'd lifted his daughter onto his shoulders and listened to Matteo talk about dinosaurs and stood between her and her ex like a wall, the man who'd said, "The woman I love," like it was the simplest truth in the world. No, I don't want to slow down. I want to run full speed toward whatever this is and hope we don't crash. We might crash. I know. I'm probably going to mess this up, say the wrong thing, do too much, try to fix things I should let you handle. I'm probably going to be too proud, push you away when you get too close, freak out when things feel too good. We're both going to stumble. Completely. Gerald kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Move in with me. Martina pulled back. What? Move in with me. You and Matteo. My house is huge and empty, and you're paying rent on a place that's falling apart. Move in. Let me help. Let us be a family for real. Gerald, that's insane. Is it? We're already acting like a family. The kids already love each other. You already work for my foundation. Why are we pretending this is casual when it's not? Because people don't move in together after 2 weeks. People also don't fall in love in pawn shops. But here we are. You love me? Her voice cracked. Completely. Terrifyingly. All in. No takebacks. Probably moving too fast. Love you. He cupped her face. I love how you protect your son. How you visit your mother even when it breaks your heart. How you approved those grants and cried because you understood their pain. I love that you're brave and scared and trying anyway. I love you, Martina Medina, and I know it's too soon, and too much, and completely crazy. But it's true. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. I've been trying not to, trying to be sensible. But I love you so much it scares me. So let's be scared together. In my house, with our kids, building something real. What if Diego uses it against me? Living with a man I've known 2 weeks? Then my lawyer will explain that you're living with your employer in a professional capacity, that you have your own room, that it's a practical arrangement while you're dealing with legal threats and financial recovery. He smiled. We'll make it look however we need to make it look. But behind closed doors, we'll be a family. Martina's head spun. This was crazy, completely, utterly insane. It was also the best offer she'd ever received. I need to think about it, she said. Take all the time you need. Can I have 24 hours? You can have forever. She kissed him, poured every ounce of love and fear and hope into it. When they broke apart, both kids were standing in the doorway, watching. Are you guys getting married? Penelope asked. Not yet, Gerald said, but maybe someday. Cool. Matteo shrugged. Can we have pizza for dinner? They ordered pizza, ate on Martina's worn couch with kids squished between them and grease dripping everywhere. Watched a movie about dinosaurs that Penelope declared scientifically inaccurate, but still cool. It was perfect, messy and imperfect, and absolutely perfect. When Gerald and Penelope finally left, Martina stood at the window and watched their car disappear. Are we going to move into their house? Matteo asked from behind her. Maybe. Would that be okay? Will I get my own room? Probably. Will there be dinosaurs? We can negotiate dinosaurs. Then yeah, it's okay. He paused. Mama? Yeah, baby. I'm glad the magic man found us. Martina pulled her son close. Me too, baby. Me too. That night, after Matteo was asleep, she texted Gerald. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, we'll move in. Okay, we'll be a family. Okay to all of it. Yeah? Yeah. Let's run full speed and see what happens. I love you. I love you too. So much it's terrifying. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? The best kind. She fell asleep, smiling, despite the legal threats and uncertainty. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't facing the hard things alone. She had Gerald. She had their kids. She had a family. And that made everything else feel possible. 3 months changed everything. By late summer, Martina and Matteo had been living at Gerald's estate for 10 weeks. Matteo had his own room painted with a mural of the solar system, a compromise between his dinosaurs and Penelope's space obsession. The kids had their own bathroom, a playroom that looked like a toy store exploded, and a backyard big enough to get lost in. Martina had her own suite, separate from Gerald's, professional, appropriate. Exactly what they'd told the lawyers and social workers who'd come to inspect the living arrangements. What they didn't mention was that Gerald ended up in her room most nights anyway, that they'd wake up tangled together and he'd kiss her forehead and whisper good morning like it was a prayer, that this felt more like home than anywhere she'd ever lived. The custody battle had been brutal. Diego's lawyer painted Martina as unstable, unemployed for months, living with a man she barely knew, dependent on her boyfriend's wealth. They made her sound like a gold digger who'd gotten lucky. Gerald's lawyer, Catherine Brennan, 55 and sharp as a knife, had demolished every argument, presented Martina's employment contract, her work at the foundation, testimonies from grant recipients whose lives she'd changed, character witnesses who spoke about her dedication as a mother. And then there was Matteo. The judge had spoken to him privately, 6 years old, sitting in chambers, answering questions about who he felt safe with, who he wanted to live with, whether he wanted to see his father. He'd been brave. So impossibly brave. My mama takes care of me, he'd told the judge, according to Catherine. And Gerald takes care of both of us. Diego just shows up when he wants something. That's not a dad. That's just a man who knows my name. The judge had ruled 2 weeks ago. Primary custody to Martina, supervised visitation for Diego 1 Saturday afternoon per month with a social worker present, and Diego had to pay the $45,000 in back child support, plus current support going forward. Diego had shown up to exactly 0 visitation sessions so far. Some people only want things when they can't have them, Gerald had said. He didn't want to be a father. He wanted to win. Now it was early September. The leaves were just starting to turn. And Martina was standing in the foundation office, staring at a grant application that made her heart stop. Applicant: Rosa Medina. Submitted by the Willows Memory Care Facility. Request: $50,000 for experimental dementia treatment program. She read it 3 times, hands shaking. The treatment was new, experimental, not covered by insurance. But early trials showed promise, not a cure, but a slowing of progression. A chance for more good days, more moments of recognition. $50,000. She could approve it. She had the authority. Gerald had given her full discretion on grants under $100,000. But this was her mother. Conflict of interest, she whispered. What is? Gerald appeared in her doorway. He'd been in meetings all morning, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked tired and beautiful, and hers. This application, it's for Mum, for a treatment program. She handed him the paperwork. I can't approve my own mother's grant. That's not ethical. Gerald read through it. His expression shifted. This treatment program, it's legitimate. I researched it last month when the Willows mentioned it. The studies are promising. Not a cure, but it could give her more time, more clarity. Then we approve it. Gerald, I'll approve it, not you. I'm the foundation director. I can overrule the conflict of interest. He was already signing the approval form. $50,000 to give Rosa more good days? That's exactly what this foundation is for. Martina's eyes burned. You can't just keep saving me. I'm not saving you. I'm loving you. There's a difference. He came around the desk, pulled her into his arms. Let me do this, please. Let me give your mother a chance. She buried her face in his chest, breathed him in. Okay. Yeah? Yeah. She looked up at him. I love you. So much. Even when you're being impossible. Especially when I'm being impossible. He kissed her, soft and sweet. Come on. We're leaving early today. Why? Because I have a surprise. And because I'm the boss and I can leave whenever I want. He drove them to Stella's restaurant, the place where they'd had their first date. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting everything gold. Stella met them at the door, grinning like she had a secret. Right this way. Their corner table on the deck had been transformed. Candles everywhere. Flowers, not fancy arrangements, but wildflowers like the ones he'd brought her that first Sunday. Twinkle lights strung overhead. Gerald, what is this? Sit down and find out. She sat. He didn't. Instead, he knelt beside her chair, pulled a small box from his pocket. Martina's heart stopped. I've been carrying this for a month, waiting for the right moment. But then I realized there's no such thing as a right moment. There's just moments, and I want all of them. With you. He opened the box. The ring inside was beautiful. Her grandmother's original diamond, now set in white gold with smaller diamonds surrounding it, creating something new while honoring what came before. Is that your grandmother's ring, the one you sold? I had it reset, added to it, made it something new while keeping what mattered. His voice shook. You sold this ring to save your son. I'm giving it back to ask you to save me. Every day. For the rest of our lives. Tears streamed down her face. Gerald. Martina Juliet Medina. I love you. I love how you fight for what matters. I love how you see people really see them. I love watching you with Matteo and Penelope. I love that you approve grants while crying, because you remember what desperation feels like. I love that you visit your mother even when she doesn't know you. I love that you let me in when you'd spent years keeping everyone out. He took a shaky breath. I know it's only been 4 months. I know people will say it's too fast, but when you know, you know. And I know I want to wake up next to you for the next 60 years. I know I want to raise our kids together. I know I want to build a life where we help people and love each other, and remember that we both almost gave up right before we found each other. Gerald, marry me. Please, marry me, and let me spend the rest of my life proving that good men exist, that love doesn't always end in abandonment, that sometimes the person who sees you at your lowest becomes the one who lifts you highest. Martina couldn't speak, could barely breathe. You don't have to answer now. Take time. Think about it. I just needed you to know. Yes. He froze. What? Yes. Yes. I'll marry you. Yes, to all of it. She slid out of the chair, knelt on the deck with him, took his face in her hands. You walked into my life when I was selling my grandmother's ring to buy groceries. You gave me $8,000 like it was nothing. You offered me a job that became a partnership. You met my mother when she didn't know me. You stood between me and my ex-husband. You became a father to my son without even trying. You gave me a family, a home, a future I'd stopped believing in. Her voice broke. I love you, Gerald Christopher Macmillan. I love you so much it terrifies me. But it's the best kind of terrifying, so yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. Her grandmother's ring, transformed, made new but still carrying history. Then he kissed her like she was oxygen. Stella was crying from the doorway. Half the restaurant was watching. Martina didn't care. She was engaged to a man who'd saved her life by seeing her as worth saving. They told the kids that night, gathered them in the living room. Matteo and Penelope sat on the couch, looking suspicious. You're acting weird, Penelope announced. We're not weird, Gerald said. You're totally weird, Matteo agreed. What's going on? Martina held up her hand. The ring caught the light. Both kids screamed. You're getting married. Penelope launched herself at them. You're actually getting married. Does this mean we're real siblings now? Matteo asked. You were always real siblings, Gerald said. Now it's just official. Can I be in the wedding? Penelope demanded. Can I bring dinosaurs? Matteo asked. Yes, and maybe. We haven't planned anything yet. I want to plan it. Penelope was already vibrating with ideas. And I want a little sister, or brother. I'm not picky, but preferably a sister. Martina's face went hot. Gerald choked on air. One thing at a time, sweetheart. But you're thinking about it, right? Penelope looked between them. More kids? So we're a really big family? Martina met Gerald's eyes, saw the question there. The hope. Maybe. Someday. Someday soon? Penelope pressed. Someday when your father and I are actually married. Now go brush your teeth, both of you. The kids raced upstairs, already arguing about wedding colors. Gerald pulled Martina onto his lap. More kids? Is that crazy? Everything about us is crazy. He kissed her neck. But yeah, someday, I'd love more kids with you. I'm 35. I'm 38. We've got time. I want to marry you first. Have a wedding. Let the kids adjust. Agreed. His hands slid into her hair. How long of an engagement? I don't know. How long do people usually wait? I've heard anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. That's too long. I don't want to wait 2 years. Neither do I. He grinned against her skin. How about 6 months? Spring wedding? Spring wedding. Small. Just family and close friends. Whatever you want. I want you. That's all I want. You have me. You've had me since the pawn shop. They sat there in the quiet house, their kids upstairs, their future spreading out ahead of them like a promise. Gerald, thank you for seeing me, for staying, for loving me even when I didn't think I was worth loving. He pulled back, looked her in the eyes. You were always worth loving. You just needed someone patient enough to prove it. You're impossibly good. I'm impossibly in love with you. There's a difference. She kissed him. Slow and deep and full of everything she felt. When they finally came up for air, Gerald was smiling. So, 6 months, then I get to call you my wife. 6 months, then you're stuck with me forever. Best deal I ever made. 6 months later. The wedding took place at Stella's restaurant on a perfect March afternoon. The deck overlooking the valley, the mountains in the distance, wildflowers everywhere. Martina wore a simple white dress that made her feel beautiful. Gerald wore a suit that made her forget how to breathe. Matteo and Penelope stood beside them as the officiant spoke about love and commitment and building families from broken pieces. Rosa sat in the front row. The experimental treatment had given her more good days. Today was one of them. She knew where she was, who was getting married. She cried happy tears and whispered, "My baby girl," when Martina walked down the aisle. Mrs. Patterson sat beside Rosa, ready to help if needed. Catherine Brennan was there, the entire foundation staff. Stella, of course. A small gathering of people who mattered. Diego had sent a card. Martina threw it away without reading it. Some people didn't deserve space in your happiness. I do, Gerald said when asked. I do, Martina echoed. They kissed as husband and wife. The kids cheered. Everyone clapped. The sun set over the mountains in shades of gold and pink. Later, at the reception, Gerald pulled her onto the makeshift dance floor. Happy, impossibly, good, he spun her gently. Because I plan on making you this happy for the next 60 years. Only 60? Fine, 70. I'll negotiate. Matteo cut in. Can I dance with my mum? Gerald stepped back. Let Matteo take his place. Watched his wife dance with her son, both of them laughing. Penelope tugged his hand. Now you dance with me. It would be my honor. They danced. All of them, switching partners, making memories. Rosa watched from her seat, lucid and present, smiling. This family that had been built from a pawnshop encounter, from $8,000 and wildflowers and a man who'd chosen to help instead of walk away, from a woman brave enough to accept help, to let love in, to believe in second chances. Later that night, after the guests had left and the kids were asleep at Mrs. Patterson's house, Gerald and Martina stood on the deck at Stella's. I have something for you, he said. More gifts? You already gave me everything. Not everything. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a deed. To Stella's restaurant. I bought it. Stella's retiring next year. I bought it so it wouldn't close. Thought maybe we could run it together. Keep it as a family place. Our place. Martina's eyes filled. You bought me a restaurant. I bought us a memory. A place where our story happened. Thought we should protect it. I love you. So much. I don't even have words. Then don't use words. He pulled her close. Just stay. Keep choosing me. Keep building this life with me. Every day. For the rest of our lives. They stood there as stars emerged overhead. Two people who'd been broken and had found each other in the wreckage. Who'd built something beautiful from desperation and hope. Who'd learned that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best beginnings. And that love, real love, doesn't rescue you. It walks beside you, shares the weight, makes the impossible feel possible. Martina Medina Macmillan leaned into her husband's arms and felt completely, perfectly, impossibly home. This was her life now, and it was better than anything she'd ever dreamed. Thank you for staying with this story till the end. If you enjoyed it, the next one will completely pull you in. It's even more surprising and emotional than this. So don't miss it. Tap the video on your screen and continue the journey.